Welcome to our matters of family that are important and need to discuss forum of understanding. The family matters, while Christian really applies to all humans, regardless of walk of life. Maybe I maybe have be but not have maybe adults and children. For those that matters so dear to hearts. I dare say they are there to the heart of our Lord, because He is church. Each one is like thrive and fruit tree. Today's session is about a topic I believe as some of you is communications. And the communications can be very long, don't cover in one. But to only discuss the communications, the lost among marriages will not try to cover the communications with children. I promise to do that hopefully next week. So all of us have from different walks have different types of communication in our home. You may be from a home mom and dad spoke orders not submitted, obeyed. And not only there is no communication, but when it happens, it's always shouting, anger, and no respect. On the other hand, you may come from a culture where everyone talks to everybody and there is a very open book type of dialogue. And from that, you may be much easier to deal with a communication issue than other groups. Now, what happens when we lose communication? What happens when we stop talking to each other? The first thing that happens is doubting. When the husband and the wife stop talking to each other, each one unfortunately start to think ill of the other person. They may think he is covering up something. She is concealing something. She is hiding something. She is doing something behind my back. And because of that, unfortunately, they end up by finding themselves as if there is an issue that without it, they cannot continue. So the first thing when we lose communications, we lose faith in each other. The second issue that happens, we have a home that close to a news agent rather than a dialogue. Things are being said as orders, as someone is telling the other one the news of the day and the weather of the day and the orders of the day. But no one is really speaking their heart and no one speaking their feelings. There is also a third problem that happens with lack of communication, which is really become a very poor role model for our children. Our children, with whom we will be talking about in a different week, we will have no role model to follow when they see the parents are not speaking with each other. Another disadvantage of lack of communication is really no one understands what goes in the mind of the other. So I'm assuming things, but I'm never really understanding what you go through. In other words, I am trying to understand you, but without really the verbal or facial communications, I may actually misunderstand you and believe something completely different. When we lack communication, we lack listening to each other. And one and maybe both cannot withstand listening, not to be listened to. And eventually, they may try to speak to somebody else. And a third person, when comes in, if this person is not faithful, unfortunately can ruin the marriage. So if a husband refraining from listening to his wife, somebody else will be listening, and who knows the result of that. The fifth reason why lack of communication can be a problem, that really everyone becomes a leader. There is no unity in the house. And when there is no unity, each one decides to do things upon the time and upon the conviction they think right. So for example, the kids need to go to a certain trip or a retreat, and they never talk to each other. One say yes and the other is saying no, but when there is no communication, who knows what will happen, if the kid will follow who, or there will be a major anger if the kid followed one parent and the other parent finds out, how dare you allowed the kid to go and I said no. And then his answer would say, I didn't know that he said no. And how would I know? You never told me you said no. Okay. Now, communication is not just talking, but communication means talking and listening. And there are many ways of listening. There is selective listening, meaning you listen to what you like and you ignore what you don't like. There is also pretending listening, that you make yourself as if you are listening, but you actually distracted. The third is a non-emotional listening. You are listening, but you are not empathic. You are not putting yourself in the shoes of the person who is talking. And then the good ones are attentive listening. You are actually putting an effort not to be distracted, for you to understand every word being said. And finally, the empathic listening, and that's the best one, which we'll spend some time on it later on today. Empathic listening, where you actually not just listen, but you put yourself in the shoes and the place of the other. I have a couple of questions that came, and I would rather wait a few more minutes until I collect more, and also to give you more ideas of what I want to proceed with. Now, what's an active listening? Active listening is to understand, not just to listen to the message of the other person. This is a huge difference, that you are allowing your ears to hear, but the active listening, you're allowing your mind to understand and your heart to feel what your ears are listening. So active listening allows the person to not just listen by his or her ears, but actually their body language may convey a message that I am with you, I am following what's happening. Active listening, you are not just listening to the words, but you are actively watching the features of the face of the person who's speaking. Because the difference between a person on the phone and a person you are seeing in front of you that you're actually seeing my face while I'm speaking. You are actually watching my facial expression. And although I'm speaking alone for now, but if we are two, you will notice if I am angry, if I am about to cry, if I am completely um, sort of upset or depressed. All of that you will notice, and then you will take a decision of how you respond to me. Okay, now there are significant differences between the man as a communicator and the woman as a communicator. The man, by his nature, the husband, he is not a listener by his nature. He's a doer. So for the woman to get upset because you are not listening to her, it's understandable that she's upset, and it's understandable that you are not listening. But here we all, including myself, need to learn how, as men, become better in listening to our wives. Because some of the work, some of the solution is actually listening. Sometimes you don't have to do any work. I remember this story about a woman who had an accident by her new car, and she was so upset that her car was scratched. As soon as she got home, she waited until her husband comes. And as soon as he came, she started telling him, I just want to tell you something about the car. He said, oh, you hit the car, right? Yeah, but please listen to me. Of course you hit the car. I know. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Just give me the police report. I'll call the insurance company. I'll take care of this. And you know what? He took care of it. But the woman continued to be angry. Because what happened is, although he was a doer and he practically solved the problem, but actually he did not listen. And the woman continued to be angry and upset because she never told him about many things. She wanted to tell him it's not my fault. She wants to tell him that police officer was not fair. She wants to tell him that the person who hit her was not nice and he was very abusive with it. She wants to say many things. But I, as a husband, did not care to listen. And hence, although I would say, what do you want from me? I solved your problem. She will tell me, no, you didn't. In her head, you solved it, your problem. But my problem, nobody solved it because nobody listened. Nobody communicated with me. You took care of the practical issue, but you didn't care of the core. So as a husband, we are not good listeners and we need to do a better job. The husband also, he is not talkative by his nature. I remember a story I read about James Dobson and his wife when they visited a couple who unfortunately lost their son. Their son died. And the two men went into fishing for 2-3 hours, and the two women stayed behind cooking or preparing the meal. In the way back, James Dobson asked Mrs. Dobson asked his wife, her husband, what did you talk about? He said, nothing. We were fishing. She asked him, what do you mean didn't talk about? You stayed 3 hours. What did you talk about? He told her nothing. We men, when we fish, we fish. We don't talk. Just simple talk, but really nothing. No substance to the talk. He told her, what about you? And she started telling him about 2 hours of communications that the woman, because of the loss of their son, they are about to get divorced. They were very much in grief and they can't take each other. Now, the men could not get that. Man could not get from his friend that through lack of talking, while women, very easy to talk about things. The husband or the man ready to make a reaction and practical solution immediately. And finally, men will seek outside help very, very late, if any. The husband doesn't want anyone to interfere in their lives, does not want to seek any therapy or any counseling or even father of confession. The wife, on the other hand, she loves to talk. She wants to speak. She wants to express herself. She is talkative by her nature and she likes to be heard. And if we go back with our memory to Adam, Eve, and Satan, Adam wasn't listening to his wife and her loneliness. And when Eve was lonely, Satan was able to communicate and talk to her, and he listened to her when she told him, God told us so and so, he wants to do this. He told her God is not truthful with his word. And all of a sudden, we find that Satan listened in an evil way, of course, while Adam wasn't. And Eve was talking, and unfortunately, Adam wasn't available to listen. So the woman loves to talk and likes to be heard. And actually, if she is suppressed, interrupted, or disallowed to speak, that can really cause her major issue. The woman usually reacts much slower than a man. She's not as practical as a man. Of course, I'm talking in general. Many women are different and many men are different. I know men who are very talkative and I know women who are very non-talkative. Woman is always ready to seek help most of the times early compared to very late and as far as the man. So with that said, I want to open up for one question. It's a very long question, so I'm going to summarize it. Basically, the person is saying, we have zero communications, not because I don't want to communicate, but we don't have time. I go to work very early. I finish work at 6 in the middle of the day. There's no time to text because my husband is always busy in meetings. When I come home, I have to take care of my children. By the time I'm ready to sleep, he is also tired. We don't speak. So basically, she's saying we almost never sit together as a family or even for a family dinner. No time for that. We are always running after appointments. It's overwhelming to think about communication as a way to sit down and talk. This almost never happens. The factor of time is an issue. Also the fact that I'm a dominant character and my husband and child loves discussion, which I don't. So that's, I was just saying that some women don't like discussion while some men like discussion. I'll come back to some solutions, but I want to say there is no good excuse for no communications. I think time is going to be always against us. When you get older and become in my age, you will regret the times that you did not spend with your husband or with your children. And at that time, may be too late. Haven't gone through a real communication with them, which I'm not covering today, you will find yourself you have lost a lot of time and they are not your friends anymore. Now, how to have better communications. I'm going to cover about 10 or 12 points, although let me, and I'll answer the question I just read. I know there is a question about my son is 15 and does not like to talk about any conversation. If you don't mind, I'm going to postpone talking about it until we talk in communications with our children. Another question, my husband does not like to talk much, and I am the opposite. I like to discuss any issue that our family face and he always shuts me saying, whatever you want to do, whatever you see correct. Do whatever you see correct. I explained many times that I need a partner to discuss life problems with me, but he's still the same. How can I help the change? Thank you for the question. And as I mentioned, women need to understand that men are less talkative by their nature, while women are much easier to talk and always like to be listened to. So I'm going to give some practical advices and it will cover both questions. The first thing is you have to tell each other, set an appointment almost. Appointment where you say, we need to talk. It doesn't have to be now, but I need an appointment from you. I know you're very busy and I'm also. Tell me when. I'm going to make any time you want. So you will say Thursday, 7 p.m. Thursday. You tell him when. I need an hour. An hour? Yes, please, give me an hour. We may finish early, but please give me an hour. He tells her Thursday at 7 p.m. You take care of the children, send them somewhere, order some food from outside. Don't entangle yourself in any food. And 7 p.m., you give him an alarm alert that day in the morning. Please remember our time, 7 p.m. today. I'm really looking forward for our conversation. If you want, you can give him another alert an hour earlier. And then he comes and said, maybe he's uninterested. What's wrong? Or he's very worried, God forbid, you have discovered an illness in you. And you tell him, no, nothing about that. This is about us. I want to talk about us. So now the first thing is you set a time. And that time must be respected by both. And if there is a cancellation, must be with a replacement appointment. So if he says, I'm sorry, something came up, I'm coming late from work, I will not arrive before 8, don't get angry, he did not mean it, but ask him for a replacement time. So he gives you another time, and neither of you should cancel the second time. When you sit down, I prefer that you are sitting in a non-screen rooms, meaning no iPad, no iPhone, and no TV. No screens in the room. Of course, you may be sitting and there are screens, but I mean, you know what I mean. None of them are being used. Your phone is not at reach. Your remote control not at reach. If you are reading a journal or a magazine or a book or a fashion book, it's not near you. No distraction, and you are both sitting eye to eye. So number one, the time. Number two, no distraction. Number three, face to face. You're not sitting side to side, not both of you looking at the TV watching Everybody Loves Raymond. None of that. Everything is off. Kids are not around. If you can, they can have a play date somewhere or they can play downstairs, whatever. Then I have some rules that you will have to abide with when you communicate. You tell them, I want to speak about a topic. For example, I want to speak about our relationship with our friends. Or I want to talk about a new car we need to buy. Or I want to talk about private versus public schools for our daughter. Anything. And tell them, listen, I want to speak and please do not interrupt me. Then I'll hold my breath and you speak and I will never interrupt you. So at least we hear each other. So that's the third rule. You give yourself 5 minutes, you state your case, and please close your mouth after that. I know as a woman, you like to jump in and you want to correct something he wants to say. Please refrain from doing that. If he respects you, you should respect the dialogue as well. It's not your job only to speak, but you also must listen. I'll come back to the listening. I'm just setting some rules. So number 3 or 4 rule you're setting an appointment or a time, allocating a time for each person. Once you do that, and each one will not interrupt, once you finish his 5 minutes, you can go back and correct something he said. He can go back and rebuttal what you said, and you can go back and forth. There are some things must be watched for during a communication between a husband and wife. Number one, please listen. You are not sitting before each other to just talk. And you are not coming to just vent. You are coming to speak and then to listen. And then to listen and then you speak. And it can go back and forth until both of you are content that what you have in mind is okay. It's very common that some women likes to interrupt, likes to be loud, likes to speak because they are very passionate about the topic. And usually the man will say, you know what, I'm not going to talk about it. If this is your way, forget it. There is no point. So I'm seeking the wisdom of all ladies. Of course, again, the majority, it's not just the majority, but it's not every single one. Please do not try to sabotage the meeting by you speaking without allowing your husband to listen or to speak. So number one, listen. And when you listen, that means you are listening with your eyes, with your ears, and your mind. And when you listen, that means you do not interrupt. Constant interruption, especially by one party, will result in one of them leaving the discussion, leaving the communication. And maybe that's the reason many of our lost art in communications. Number two, I urge you both to please think before you speak. Many of us who have lost communications because we said something that was hurtful, was painful, was remindful of something in the past that was not supposed to be brought up, and all of a sudden I am bringing something that really caused a regret. So please prepare your thoughts before you speak. When you do that, you'll find yourself able to express without being angry and without being belittling or harming the person in front of you. Number three, please show care. Be caring when you are communicating. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. The example of the woman who scratched her car and she was angry. The right recommendation in a communication that the husband should have said, oh, you must have felt very angry that the car was scratched. Oh, you can't imagine, I felt so bad, it's our new car. Oh, that's okay, I understand. And how was the police officer? Oh, he was not nice, and I kept telling him it's not my fault, but because, and you tell her, don't dismiss it. Don't say, oh, you are just imagining, you are just always blaming people. You never blame yourself. Take responsibility of your actions. What else we say and we hurt our wives? Many things like that. At the end, there is no caring in my sentence. If you want to be caring, you basically, you do not want to show that you are hardened about something that you could have shown empathy. Number four, I call it don't hit below the belt, which I mean some of our words in communication can block and end the communication, and many husbands and wives are not talking because of words like this. You never change. You will be always like this. You are like, sorry to say, your mother in this and this. Uh, I, I don't know why I'm believing you again. Um, what else I can say? I mean, every single one of those, which we call it generalization and hitting below the belt, these are giving your partner um, a title and calling him names, and that usually ends by stopping the communication. You want to kill the communication? Start by exaggerating, start by generalizing and giving generalized blankets like this statements, or start by calling names. You are always like this. You never change. Um, so those words, we call them hitting below the belt. The next point, when you are about to discuss an issue, communicate something you want to talk about. Let's talk about, for example, public versus private school for our daughter. Please study and only bring the facts. Know about public schools in your town. Study about private schools in their town, in your town. What is the percentage of kids going to college? What are, how many computers they have? How many teachers have master's degree? Whatever you have to study, I'm sure you guys are very good in that. But if you do not present facts, and you will find yourself losing your communication. Like, for example, you prefer your parents over me all the time. Where did you get that from? Oh, I know it. I'm sure. You go there all the time. And you don't have that fact. Actually, as a matter of fact, he hasn't gone for the last 2 weeks. So you can either be specific, or by you generalizing and giving less than right facts, you are actually losing the communication, because he will tell you, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't do that. I haven't done that. The next point, please be honest and sincere about what you are talking about. Meaning, do not be what is the word? Do not cover up something that if you transparent, she will be so easy to talk to you. Some of us, when we communicate, and this is worse in men than women, um, we sometimes cover up things because we are embarrassed from something we did as men, so we lie. And when we lie, our wives are so good in picking our lies. They have an antenna and a sixth sense, and they pick it. And when we appear that we cheated or we lied, I don't mean cheating except by lying, unfortunately, you lose the communication because she will assume everything you said is the same. So please be honest and be sincere when you communicate with your wife or your husband. Next point. I want you to be smart communicator. If you watch a salesperson, how he communicates with you to sell you the car, and all of a sudden he's flipping, and all of a sudden you looked because there was a red Toyota or I know what, right away he knows what you like. So all of a sudden he will bring many things, they are all red. And then he noticed, for example, your husband is looking more at certain tires. Then he will bring that. What I'm trying to say with this, please be smart in communication. You noticed your wife is about to lose her temper because she's very upset that somebody at work treated her less than good. you don't have to wait until she explains to you. You observed. If you're smart, you tell her, you must be so hurt by this. This man is completely unfair with you. I'll tell you what we do wrong. You always overestimate, you always underestimate, sorry, you always make big deals out of these things. He didn't mean it. Come on, you always make big deals. Everything happens to all of us. Yeah, that's not smart. That's not a salesperson that he wants to sell something. You're not selling except love and peace and caring. So, by observation and by being smart about it, um, so so by doing this, by being observant of your husband's, that he, for example, felt very down that his supervisor sort of belittled him or did not give him the correct promotion, or uh, be smart about it. I can see you are very hurt. I can see how much that can be very painful. I can see how unfair this treatment must be. I feel your pain. That's called an observant communicator, which will end by very fruitful communication. The next point, and very similar, watch also for the body language and the non-verbal ones. I can roll my eyes, I can say this, I can look like as if I'm not interested, or I mock you with my face, or I can um, basically show that what you're saying doesn't make any sense. I can actually move my face or my body completely as if I'm disregarding what you're saying. I can stand up and refuse to listen. All of that are called non-verbal bad communications. We all do it, we all made mistakes, and we all need to learn how our body language, how our non-verbal communications need to be improved, need to be adjusted so we do not hurt each other. I'm going to make an assumption here. When our Lord Jesus Christ was looking and speaking to the Samaritan woman, I imagine that he looked at her face without being distracted with the well, with the water, with the mountain she spoke of. He was listening not just to her words, but he listened to her pain, he listened to her shame, he listened to her confusion, he listened to her being less than the Israelites. He listened to all of that, although her words were not the most smooth from the beginning, telling him why you are not bringing your pot if you want to drink. But he was listening to the nonverbal, and he picked on it, and he said, go and get your husband, in a very respectful way, although she did not have a husband and he knew. He did not want to hurt her feelings by calling him any other less appropriate term, although true. And all of a sudden, this woman melted before an amazing communicator who was very respectful and very observant to the said and the non-said communications. I just spoke about respect, but let me add one more item about it. Um, Please, when you communicate with each other, under no circumstances we should lower our respect to each other. We may disagree, that's completely normal, but we should never make our disagreement a reason for us to disrespect or to call names or to generalize statements, and all of a sudden we lose the attention of that statement, and all of a sudden we lose the communication. Um, the most respectful communication is the one that probably will reach far beyond the time and will gain a lot. Um, I would like also to add another point here. Please avoid the you and the finger. You never take care of the children. You never cook for us. Um, you are all you and finger are things that we should not be using, but rather I. So you can tell him, when I see you teaching the kids some school stuff, I feel very happy because the kids understand you more than the teachers in the school at school. When um, I feel hurt when you bring work at home. I feel hurt because you always bring work at home. I feel hurt when you are busy doing work at home. I and feel. I feel jealous when you are always with the kids and you ignore me. A husband is telling his wife. Another point in order for us to have better communications. Um, and this is really is avoiding the yelling and the, the screaming. One of the things that cancel all our communications when a wife, or for that matter, a husband, raises his or her voice to try to take over the communication. One of them may leave, one of them may feel very threatened, one of them may feel, you know what, do whatever you like, but it's not a talk anymore. Raising your voice or resorting to yelling, basically, that means you do not have the facts and you do not have the confidence to present your case well. For a win-win solution and a win-win communication, I'll give you a couple of hints before we close today. As I said before, let everyone has his own allocated time. And I like to end that time by asking, do you understand my point? I wish the husband will say, of course, you said that the public school has 1, 2, 3. And you also said that the private school, you can't imagine you as a husband when you reiterate or re-review what your wife just said. It makes her feel very understood, appreciated, that you are very attentive and focused. So that's a win-win. Please do not move from one topic to another and not to try to solve one problem, more than one problem at the same time. Another win-win, do not bring past conflicts while you're trying to solve a current problem. Why would you have to bring your in-laws when you are talking now about the school and you hardly are able to make a decision? If at some time you guys feel something is going to hurt each other, I wish you agree from before that if we find ourselves are going to hurt each other, that we stop and prostrate ourselves with the cross, or we say our Father in heaven, or we stand up for a short prayer, or we say it seems we are slipping in a place where we can hurt each other. Let's postpone it till another time. Or you say, you know what? I feel if I continue, I'm going to say the wrong things. Do you mind if I continue with this another time? It should not be postponed more than a day if you have to break the communication in the middle, because you are leaving one person almost boiling, waiting to finish. But I don't mind yet. I do it provided, can you give me an hour? Let's have a cup of tea. I'll go outside. I'll come back and we continue. No problem. You cool off as long as you agree to meet again. Um, Please, when you have a list of topics discussed and you communicated with each other about it, make a list of what you agreed upon. Send it to each other in love and agree that this is what you agreed upon. Because unfortunately, sometimes we forget and we think we never achieved anything and our life continued to be stagnant. So now let me go back to the couple of questions that were asked the first time. So the first question was regarding that there is no time and each one of us is very busy. And she added the third problem that the husband is more communicative than the wife. Number one, there is no replacement substitution to communications. You can use text, but that still is not enough. You guys need to agree on a time, even if that time has to make you lose making dinner, taking care of the kids for one evening, whatever. You have to agree. You may go in the car and sit in the car alone and somebody takes care of the kids. You may make them go to sleep and then you go in the car and sit in front of the house, so at least if your voice go a little louder, the kids are not awakened by it. But do not just ignore the topic because you don't have time. You will not have time. You have to make the time. Number two, I said the majority of women are talkative and the majority of men are not listeners unless talkative. That doesn't mean it applies to everyone. Actually, the man who is talkative is a blessing. I wish I was talkative, at least with my wife, I mean. But we normally don't talk much. But we need to learn how to listen and how to try to talk as much as possible to please our wives. And our wives need to be content to some extent with our nature, that I am not as liberal in my words as you are. Should the story is replaced that the husband is more talkative than the woman, then each one of you need to understand the other one and need to spend time to still help each other to communicate. So the next question is, I like to discuss any issue that our family face. He always shuts me saying whatever you want to do, you see correct, go ahead. And of course she's not happy. And I agree with her that she's unhappy about it because although her husband trusts her, which is very good, and he is sure that she will do the right thing, she likes to counsel, she likes to communicate. Again, I think a communication issue, we all lost it because of the life we are living in, and in many times we need to spend more time. I like car rides because it's almost like captive audience. Everybody in the car, you can spend time with each other. You agree to go, both of you, to a place which is about an hour away, and you do not put the radio, you do not put anything to listen, and you agree that will be your car ride. So as a woman, you girls are very smart, and you need to choose the time and place, and you need to tell us that will be our time to talk in the way I discussed before. So by that, you will find yourselves, not that we want to do it, but you make us do it, and maybe eventually we will like it because we find we are coming out of it more friendly, and the topics that we are leaving them behind and we don't want to touch because they are old files, we are opening them, and we are willing to open them, and we are willing to solve them, and we are willing to go back into them. I want to end by saying our Lord is a communicator. The liturgy is a dialogue between the priest and the people and God. We cannot, as an icon of heaven in our homes, to stop communicating with each other. I am not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying everyone has it in his or her house. But we need all to work on it, and we need all to improve on it, and I'm one of you. So let's all pray that we learn how to grow in communication and to avoid hurting each other by using the wrong attitudes towards shutting each other off, or speaking bad language, or reminding each other with past mistakes, or being loud or yelling, or shutting each other in speaking because I don't want to listen to what you are saying, and many other mistakes. I hope this session about communication as a lost art in marriage was helpful. We will meet again next week when we speak about communication, the lost art among our children. Have a great week. See you soon. Before I leave, by the way, I want to remind each of you that we have a very important open forum on Thursday at 7 p.m. We are speaking about marijuana. As you all know, marijuana, unfortunately, is being accepted as a legal um, um, recreational drug in many states, and a lot of families and a lot of schools and a lot of churches are fighting with the idea, how can something be maybe legal but still immoral, and how to handle it. I'm going to invite a very important person that I learned a lot from her. Her name is Dr. Martina Moore. She is an expert in marijuana addiction and in counseling. I'll also invite Dr. Mina Macarius. He's a lung doctor, and he's going to speak about the physical ill effects of marijuana. Please attend. It will be on CYC Facebook, and it will be at 7 p.m. on the 14th of October, which is next Thursday. Please send your questions to the email that you will see on CYC in order for us to present it to Dr. Martina Moore. Until I see you again, God bless.